wanted to expand on why I don't do groups. So I already talked about the narcissist. There's always a narcissist somewhere in there. Like, if not a full-blown narcissist, highly narcissistic, on the brink of being a narcissist. Like, there's always someone like that in there, and that person is usually the queen bee, because a narcissist cannot be anyone other than the top dog. Not because they're qualified to be the top dog, but because their egos cannot handle it. And this is the thing. This is what I have a problem with, and this is also why I have a problem with, like, I guess, like, dating and stuff like that, in a way, like, where it's like you have to, like, sit, because, like, I've seen people, like, in relationships, like, how, like the men, like, take the lead, and you have to, like, to like, quote, like, like, follow the lead of a man who's, like, not qualified, like, like, stupid. And I can't deal with that. Like, I cannot deal with that. Like, so, because, like, and let me tell you something, narcissists are dumb, because it is not possible to be smart as a narcissist, even if as a narcissist, of course, you think you're smart, but you're not. You're literally the dumbest person, because you live in your own little world. Maybe in your world that you created in your head, you're the smartest one there, because you're the only one there. But, like, in the real world, which you can't tap into because you wouldn't be the best anymore, you're not. So this is the thing. Groups are made of people who are typically very weak. Like, not like, I'm not saying like everyone who's in a friend group is weak, but like people who just kind of like, people kind of like herd together because they can't stand on their own type of thing. And that's why when the narcissist walks in and they're like, I'm taking over, the people who hurdle together are like, oh, you must know what you're doing. Because none of them, like the non-narcissistic or like the less narcissistic ones, don't think to take the role of the lead because they're like, oh, I'm not qualified for that. The only difference between the people who don't take the lead and the narcissist is the ego. Because the narcissist also very much isn't qualified for that. And I have a hard time, I've ran into this issue, like, not just in dating, but in work. Like, I have a hard time submitting to people who don't know what they're doing. I have a very hard time with that. Like, the second I sniff out you're not that smart and you don't know what you're doing, yet you demand that I follow you, it's not going to work. And that's precisely what narcissists are. It is not possible to be living in your own little world where you're always right and you never learn anything and you never take accountability and you never let life take you through its lessons because you have too much internalized shame and ego, and then come out and be smart. Even if you had the potential to be smart, you are never going to utilize that potential as a narcissist. So there's always a queen bee, and the queen bee is never qualified to be the queen bee. And I'm like, I don't get why this person is the queen bee. And they can always sniff out, because I've never been like in a group like that, but they can always sniff out that you're like not like a follower like that, and you can like, and you're like, you can like read them, and they like, oh, I need to ruin her reputation, so, and then I come off, because I'm quiet, like I come off as someone you can kind of like do that too, like they can tell I'm like, I don't like to say I'm smart. Like, I don't think anyone should go around saying you're smart, because the second you think you're smart, it's like the second you stop learning stuff is like the second you think you know everything, which is why narcissists are never freaking smart. But it's like, like they can tell that I know. Like, they can tell that I can see it. Like, I grew up, my sister was like that. Like, I can see, and they hate that. Because they're used to their little group members being like not seeing it and putting everything, and partially because of the queen bee, it's like, you throw things under the rug. Back into the medieval times when there were like kings and stuff like that, the king could make a law and do everything against the law, and what choice do the people have but to act like he didn't do anything, And that's the same treatment that these narcissists get in these like friend groups. The other thing I don't like about friend groups, so, number one, I have a hard time submitting to people who aren't qualified. The second thing is that there's always, like, in these dynamics, no matter what it is, including family, there's always at least one or two people who aren't in with the group like the other people are in with the group. And that's the whole thing. It's like there's like secondary group chats and stuff like that. And I feel like those people aren't really like your friends, because like there's always like some type of a class system. And the people and like, let's say someone who's higher up on the class system does something dirty to someone who's lower up on the class system for whatever arbitrary reason. Like, these things, like, only exist within the group. The second you leave the group, like, let's say you're, like, a lower status within the group. The second you leave the group, that status does not follow you. That's some weird thing that's, like, for inside of the little group thing. So the second you leave the group, you have like, your low status is gone because it's made up. But anyways, so they have a class system within the group. And let's say someone who's like higher up in the group, like, quote, higher up, does something dirty to someone who's like lower in the group. The person who's in the higher up in the group automatically gets more grace, and like, the person who's like lower status automatically gets looked at the problem, even if the person who is, quote, higher up is truly the problem. And that's another thing, because I'm autistic, I don't like injustice. I don't like that. So that's another reason. I also think that, like, if you're in a friend group, I also think that, like, if you're like, I take friendships like more seriously, and it's like, if like someone's viewing me as low status, as like the low status friend, I'd rather just not. You can be an acquaintance. You are an acquaintance. If I am the low status friend, you are an acquaintance, if that. I am not freaking, like, you have your friends that are up here and I'm up here, but we're all in the same group. Like, no, like, I don't care, like, if I'm not someone's best friend, type of thing in, like, one-on-one friendships. But I don't like it when it's, like, a whole group thing and you're, like, the lower status one. Like, that's messed up to me. So, yeah, as I was saying, there's always, like, people who are like there's at least like one or two outliers in every group, and the people who are all in with the group will talk about the outliers. And I don't understand why the people who are out, like, they'll all have like a group chat. Like, I've heard so many stories of people being like, yeah, I was in a friend group and I found out there was a second group chat where I was like the only one who wasn't in it. And there's like, this is like a common thing. There's always one or two people who are just like kind of on the outskirts of the group. Like, they're technically in the group, but they're on the outskirts. And I'm like, why do you put up with that? I don't get that. Like, unless you're too like out of it, because some people truly like, they like the group thing because they're super out of it. So they can't really stand on their own. And so, like, people who are super out of it like that, they don't even realize they're, like, outliers within the group until it becomes very, very obvious. But, yeah, like, I clocked certain things with, like, my family about who was the outlier in the group when I was very young, among the adults, like, and before they did, like, and stuff. And like, every time I've witnessed, like, because I've always been like an observer, like in school, like when I was around like people my age, like when we were like kids like that, and like to be friend groups and stuff, I could always like tell who was more in than, like, there's always like one or two outliers. And with the outliers thing, finally, last but not least, with the outliers thing comes, they plan things together without you, but you're still part of the group though. Like, there's every single group that I've witnessed, like, the quote main members of the group would all get together, and there would be like two or three people who just like weren't invited, and then they still like, and to me it's like, someone who like who is your friend and invites all their other friend but doesn't invite you is not your friend. And I don't mind like not being invited somewhere, I don't need to be invited everywhere, but don't purposely leave me out and then expect friendship privileges. Like, that's the part that pisses me off. And these people don't have boundaries. They don't, because you're part of the group too, like, they don't have boundaries with you, so they think they can treat you any which way, like a dysfunctional family. So, like, they'll leave you out of something and then expect it to be all good because you're part of the group. And it's like, no, someone who leaves me out of crap, like, you can leave me out of something if you don't want me there, like, fine. But we're not friends. Like, if you invite everyone else, but you leave me out, we are not cool. Period. There doesn't have to be any beef, but we're not cool like that. So you have to respect that I'm not, like, going to be friends with you,